Oh, yeah. Welcome to the Dr. Greenthumb podcast right here, live on YouTube every Monday. We got a special edition today. We're going kind of early, and I like early.
Yeah,
I feel like the energy's up.
Do you now, be real?
I do, man. Hey, listen, I'm up at 6:30 every morning.
Who showed up late, C-?
Well, who comes from the Valley, E-Zone?
Yeah, that's true.
You're still up earlier than me.
It's not about us, though, right? Let's just get that off top right now.
It's Monday.
It's about our special guest. It's Monday, and I just want to say, man, thank you to my man Ricky Williams here for jumping in that smoke box. And a lot of people were geeked off that, you know what I'm saying? And it's great to have you on the Dr. Greenthumb podcast because we could talk about that and so many other things. But I do want to say this, yesterday, horrible tragedy happened. We lost Kobe Bryant and his daughter Gianna, and the other people that were on that flight, friends and practically family to the guy. And we want to send prayers and condolences, to all those families that lost somebody in that crash.
Yeah, absolutely.
100. But that being said, welcome to the show, Rick. Welcome to the Dr. Greenthumb podcast.
Good to be here.
Man.
Yes, sir.
I feel it's like one of those, when the real world ends and then they bring them all back together to talk about the season.
Yeah.
It's like something new we're doing here, so you get to hear the recap. I want to know, what did you eat after that smoke box?
Yeah, that is a good question. What did you eat after the smoke box?
You think I remember?
That's an even better response.
Yeah, that is the way better. Touche. I can't respond to that one, man.
Yeah. That was a great insertion of touche, right there.
Yes, indeed.
Because half the time, I don't remember what I have after.
I mean, that was an epic smoke. So I'm like, I don't know. I'm maybe picturing you like eating a bunch of pizza or something.
No, I don't really get the munchies until late at night. Oh. So I probably went home and read something.
That's something that I have in common with you there because, a lot of people get munchies right after they eat, especially like new smokers, right?
Yeah.
Like people that have been smoking for less than a year or even a year, they're going to get the sweet tooth or something right away. I don't necessarily get it. And I think maybe because I've been smoking so long, it only hits me at night.
I think you gotta get used to it. Like, cause everybody's, I don't know, like, just maybe your style. Like me, like, I automatic with the munchies, even a sativa indica or not.
Yeah. Every time automatic?
Yeah, but then again, it's like I feel like I built it that way because I have a food show called High and Hungry, and then it's, you know what I mean? It's high and hungry, and it's like,
part of your
I got to snack
on
something.
I think we make associations,
Yeah. And so let me ask you this. You had to maintain a certain diet while you were playing. Do you still maintain like that sort of diet while now as a...
I think I'm actually on the opposite. I was over the top with my diet. I did this thing when I got traded to Miami in 2002. I was bigger than I wanted to be, and so I got with the strength coach there, and I said I'm trying to lose some weight. And he knew this genius woman down in Florida who was a immunologist, and she would test your white blood cells and to see that actually your immune system would attack certain foods. So she would test your blood and she would give you a diet that gave you foods that your immune system didn't attack. And I started getting on this really intense diet, and I was on it for about 2 years. And I led the NFL in rushing that year, and so it
made a difference.
It made a huge difference but it was like that show Chopped. There are certain foods you could have, and you would have those foods, and you just would have to get creative and how do I turn this into something that I actually will eat on a
put hot sauce on everything.
Exactly. If hot sauce was on the diet, but I would have to make my own hot sauce, and I did.
Damn.
Is she still around? Like, this is lady who
she unfortunately she passed way too young. But it was intense. It was over the top. But it was funny because I was so picky about the way I ate. I had to give when we traveled with the team, I had to give the hotel staff in their kitchen specific directions about the kinds of food I had to have. And then I retired and I came back. And when I came back, I was a vegetarian. So it was a similar situation where I was very strict on the way that I ate.
Those boundaries.
And I think now, since I retired, I remember after I retired, I was at a workshop up in Portland, and I hadn't eaten meat in I think 9 years.
Damn.
And I walked out, and there was one of those maple donuts with bacon on top.
Oh shit!
And I
had to have it.
I couldn't help myself.
Had to have it.
It surprised me so much. I actually took a picture of because my friends. I knew my friends wouldn't believe me, so I took a picture of the donut. I took a picture of the donut with the bite out of it, and I took a picture of the food in my mouth being chewed. Because I knew
Nice.
Yeah, because it could
nobody
have just
would
been a
believe me.
prop. Yeah,
Exactly.
Do you feel that there's a misconception on the energy you get, from having a vegetarian diet as opposed to, the traditional, in terms of being an athlete? Because these days more athletes are going towards a vegan or a vegetarian.
It's interesting. I've studied a lot of stuff and studied nutrition. There's a theory out there, and it kind of makes sense that wherever our ancestors are from and what their natural diet is going to be something that's more natural to us.
Right.
And so in sub-Saharan Africa, there was meat, but it was easier. There was free access to vegetables, to roots, to things that grow in nature. And so I found that my body in a performance mode just did better. But I think for each individual, you have to find what kind of diet works for you.
That's like some 23andMe shit right there.
Well, yeah,
You know what I mean?
well, that's the funny thing is that 23andMe and like Ancestry.com, well, not Ancestry.com, but 23andMe will give you that breakdown and tell you what is better fuel for your body due to your genetic makeup, right? And what the good things and the bad things that you should cut out. And some of those bad things are your favorite shit. You just got to be disciplined enough and care about yourself enough to, get yourself into that sort of pattern, right?
Yeah, in some places, like in Jamaica, the Ital diet is very similar to the diet that my ancestors had in, ITAL. They eat a lot of vegetables and they'll eat a little bit of fish, but it's because when we came over on the slave ship and, we went to certain places. We came to the South. We kind of had to take on the Europeans' diet,
Right?
And it really kind of alienated us from what was natural to us,
Right?
And I think just as a general sense, in this new day and age where everyone kind of rushed to the city and we're not as attached to where we come from, I think we lose contact with important things like
roots.
Yeah, with our roots. Yeah, and part of that is what kind of food nourishes us.
When you ate meat again, like after not doing it for 9 years, did that fuck you up, like in your stomach?
It didn't, because I listened to my body. Because 2 weeks before that moment, I would have looked at that donut and not had any kind of interest. Right. I just learned to try to listen to my body.
Because I've heard that from certain people that haven't ate meat in a while, and then like they have like a slice of pizza with a pepperoni on it, and it fucks them up.
Yeah. If they're not ready for it, I had one experience. In the 8 years I was a vegetarian, there's only one time that I craved meat, and I was at a teammate of mine, Joey Porter, used to have a golf tournament up in Bakersfield, where he's from. And I went up there, and I'm not a big drinker, but when I go hang out with the guys and they're drinking, I'll drink.
Right.
And usually when I do, I drink way too much. And so
don't we all?
Yeah. So I did. And it was hurting the next morning, and for some reason, so hungover, I walked into the country club and they had some prime rib up there, and that was the only time that whole time that I craved meat.
That just sounded good.
Yeah.
It smelled good too.
Man, it was. Didn't you open up a gym that was 420 friendly for a time, or is it still open?
Neither. It was an idea.
It was an idea.
It was an idea. This guy Jim McAlpine, we got together, and he had the idea of a gym, and we started talking, and I said, let's make it more of like a healing space,
right?
And we'll have an area for exercise in a gym, but just my whole thing was, let's find a way to create a way for people to practice using cannabis in ways that they're taking care of themselves.
Right.
And working out is a big part of that, but there's other ways to do that.
Yeah.
And so we started moving forward, and I saw that article came out, and he didn't talk to me about it and started saying all this stuff. And then after that, I was like, I can't trust this guy to be in any kind of partnership. And so I just said, I walked away.
I got to say, that would be a place that I would go to. Like, that would be where I would be working out at. 420 friendly gym.
Yep.
The idea is not dead. And I think as public consumption laws change, it'll be a better idea.
Yeah.
Because to me, if you can't smoke on the premises, people just smoke in their car before they go in the gym. But that's what everyone's doing already anyway.
Yeah. See, I think if it's public, it would probably be harder to do. You know what I mean? But if it's a private membership, I think it's totally doable right now until they give consumption licenses to businesses like restaurants, like gyms, like spas or whatever the fuck, that pops up.
Because if it's public, this is accidents waiting to happen. Because you're gonna
Exactly.
see you're gonna get some
liability.
motherfucker who's trying to prove something, trying to run with a joint in his mouth in the treadmill, and then he's gonna fuck himself up.
Well, that would be kind of hilarious too, though.
I mean, it would, but at the same time,
it'd be funny to have the 420 games to have real Olympics.
Yeah.
That'd be dope.
You get stoned and then try to do all the shit.
Yeah.
And then you actually have stoner competitions, like we do here, right?
Yeah.
Every now and then we'll do roll-offs,
Yeah.
like who's got the tightest roll, who's got the fattest look and prettiest fucking roll, or who could smoke a 2-gram joint the fastest, and dab hits and all this. Yeah. We were doing all kinds of dumb shit down here, just testing our mettle in terms of stonership.
Who's the champion?
Well, in terms of dabs, I would say, E-Zone probably took the biggest dabs. And rolling, well,
So
that's any given day, any one of these guys could probably beat one another at a roll off. But right now, Pedro's the sitting champ for the last few months.
he's been looking rusty though.
Is there a speed? Is there a time, like a speed who can?
Yes, we've done that. We've done speed rolls too.
Yeah.
But the thing with the speed rolls here is that no one likes to roll an ugly joint. So that puts seconds.
It's disgraceful. It's like it's an offense to the weed. Like it's
so because we like to roll them pretty. It takes a little, a couple seconds extra to get them, proper.
How do you keep the edges from being too skinny? How do you keep the
with
edges
the funky
equal?
fill tip, bro.
Well, no, I think he's talking about the lighting.
Yes.
The lighting end.
Yeah.
Well, here's our technique that we do in house, right? And that's from the champ over there to number 3. I don't know where he's at. I'm number 1.
Number 2.
But what we do is we'll roll the shit up, and we'll leave room to pack the rest of the weed there and pack it all the way up until we get it close to the end of the paper, and then just kind of put an indentation on the top to pack it in a little bit more. Yeah, tuck it in. That's our stilo down here. A lot of people, they don't necessarily do that. They'll just twist the end or light it like a fucking firecracker.
Like the foam to a beer, when you get a Guinness and then you have that little layer on top. Yeah, it's like that.
I like to get the little end twisted and then just pop the little end off.
Or cut it. Yeah, I know. I used to do that.
Cut them with scissors.
Well, Rick, at Greenthumb University, we teach these things.
That's a good idea.
We could
Here
make that
on
a
campus.
thing. Here on campus. We are trained in the art of rolling. And, C minus, he's had to do this class 3 times.
Yeah.
We're still working on
Yeah,
him.
I'm a work in progress
He's
because
been held back.
I can DJ and do all that, but when it comes to rolling joints, I'm just it's smokable, but it's not as pretty as these guys.
Right.
These guys
Yeah,
roll
it's
an immaculate
it's
joint.
smokable.
Yeah.
Hey, I used to roll ugly joints. I tell you, I was when I was a teen, Sendog would be like, "Hey, roll this joint, man." I'd be like, "All right." And I'd roll and they'd be pregnant as fuck, dog, And he'd be like, "What the fuck is this?"
It's a joint.
Till one of my homies said, "Hey, listen, I'm going to show you the trick, right?" And he showed me how to roll. And ever since then, I've been passing the knowledge on.
I'm telling you, everyone that can roll, right, can really roll, probably has a story like that where somebody imparted the information to us. And then we passed it on.
I used to get dogged all the time because I was the youngest one in the crew at the time, So I had to learn how to get it right so that they'd stop talking shit. And then I became the best roller out of all of them.
Wow.
And then I, imparted my knowledge to these gentlemen here. But the thing is, see, they got an advanced class here.
Yeah.
So you're like Yoda. You're like the Yoda.
When I learned how to roll, we didn't have these glass tips, It was
No, man, you're right.
rolling without them, and that's tough. But it's a whole other art to rolling with it. And these guys, they go at it. They talk a whole lot of shit.
Ooh.
This guy beat me one time, and he won't let me live it down.
I'm glad he brought that up. I usually have to bring it up.
So where can you find these tips?
Well, we have them on a website called funkyfieldtips.com. But I'm going to get you a pack before, when it's done, I'm going to get you dialed in so that you
I
can.
appreciate it.
Yeah, it's
a
move.
They changed the way you smoke, bro.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
It's nice.
For me, the glass tips make the joint, a whole much more enjoyable. much more enjoyable for me. You know,
taste the weed for what it really is
Yeah.
through these tips. You know what I mean? And it's clean and delicious.
They have baller ones too. Like, you know what I mean? You collect them because they have like some colored different crazy ones and shit.
Yeah.
Put me onto something. I appreciate it.
yeah. What's the fattest joint you ever smoked? Like, you know, because I know sometimes you attend the cannabis events, and you know, what's a cannabis event without a big ass joint?
You know, actually, it wasn't an event. It was a New Year's Eve party in Miami, and there were some couple of NBA players there, and they were passing around this joint that was
Oh shit!
about this big.
NBA players
Damn.
can smoke. I got to tell you,
Like,
Matt Barnes came in here, you know, just chilling, and this was after the smoke box. You know, we had already done a smoke box, and he hung smoke for smoke there. We were chilling downstairs, and Pedro, #1 roller champion over there, he just decided to test Matt Barnes's, you know, mettle in being a stoner, and he just kept rolling joint after joint, and Matt was just smoking right there, like, "Hey man, I came on the right day."
he smoked 9.
I'm telling you, athletes. I'm telling you, we got money and we got time.
And tolerance, and tolerance apparently.
Yeah. Tolerance.
I mean,
Hella tolerance.
I haven't, you know, we haven't had an athlete in here from like pretty much all aspects of sports, right? And each one of them are fucking titans with smoking, like, you know, because some people, you know, they come in here and they smoke a little bit, and they leave here like totally wrecked or paranoid, or they got to stay for a while, you know, let it wind off. But all the athletes, man, all you guys are super tuned in. It's like you guys absorb it differently.
Yeah, I think you're onto something.
Maybe because of the, you know, the way you guys took care of your bodies while you guys were competing, and the way you still probably do now. Because I really haven't seen too many athletes that retire that really, you know, let themselves go. Maybe the guys from the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
But the athletes these days, because of the technology and because of the knowledge of the diets now, you know, some people take care of themselves after the game, and those guys usually can smoke like fucking champs, bro.
I think it's the cardio, man. That's my theory behind
Yes.
it. I think because, you know, there's a majority of athletes have like a certain amount of like a cardio that's involved, regardless of what kind of sports you do. And I think that has to do because you're constantly expanding your lungs. So
Oh yeah, working the heart and lungs.
If
for
lungs
sure.
had a metabolism, that shit must be fast as fuck in your lungs. If you know what I mean, like if you're doing that many, I guess athletic work. Or
Yeah,
that much
I
athletic
think
work.
it kind of depends. So certain sports, yeah, like swimmers, distance runners. But for football players, because we sprint and then we stop, we sprint and we stop, and even the way our season is, we go intense to a season and then we have off time, is that football players, we get out of shape. We tend to be like this, you know, kind
Roller coaster.
of roller coaster, because you need balance in your life, you
Right.
know. And I just think I felt lucky that halfway through my career, I started to find things like yoga and Tai Chi and ways to move my body that weren't so hard on my body, because playing football, getting beat up, and then having to lift like weights all the time, it just beats up your joints. And so I think really players finding more creative ways to take care of themselves, and I think eating better, and and we, with all this brain trauma stuff, we realize we got to take care of ourselves, otherwise the quality of our lives is going to suck.
It's crazy because you hear about more players, like from basketball players to baseball players, football players, in soccer players, all doing like yoga now as a part of their training regimen.
Even wrestlers, dude, they have their classes. Yeah.
Because it's a different sort of workout that, you know, hits the core and all the little, you know, the little shit that you don't get when you're hitting weights and doing all that shit.
I'm saying, because of the old way, it makes you kind of like shut off your awareness of your body. It's like, I just got to do whatever I got to do to get this weight up, you know?
Yeah.
And I think these more mindful kind of ways of training, they put you more in tune with your body.
Yeah.
And I know for me, when I started doing yoga, I got hurt less. I was healthier.
You think players are coming out less beat up out of the league than they were, you know, 10 years ago?
No doubt about it. I think, one, because the rules are changing around the game, trying to protect players, and I think players are doing a better job taking care of themselves. You know, I think the two best examples are Tom Brady, that the amount of time and energy he spends taking care of his body, what he does with his diet, when I played and I had my best, I was getting a massage 2 or 3 times a week. I was spending, hours taking care of my body.
Self-care.
You have to, otherwise you're not going to make it. I think the difference for me as a young player to an older player is when I was a young player, I took my body for granted. And it let me down. But as I realized I can play this game for a long time, but the most important thing I have to do is learn to take care of my body.
Right. I mean, that's a big part of it. It's crazy because players are playing a little bit longer. I mean, what, Brady's 40 years old right now.
He's 43.
43 years old.
He'll be 43 this year.
And what was the back in maybe 10 years ago, or let's go further back to 20. What was the span of a quarterback's career? Like most of the time, they were retiring it in their 30s,
in their late 30s. Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. People are playing longer, but I think, like you said, they're coming out of the game healthier.
Right.
And back in the day, if you played 17 years in the NFL, you were getting your hips, your knees replaced by the time you were 50.
Yeah.
Damn.
The life expectancy for an NFL football player is 57 years old.
That's crazy.
Damn,
And is that from the old statistics though?
Yeah,
right?
I'm sure it's gonna keep changing. Hopefully,
I think it's going to change. Because of the way that people are taking care of themselves, the technology that's available to them, and the different training styles, and even the brain games that they have available to people. To keep the most important muscle functioning at a high level.
I think you just nailed it. And this is a theory that I have. I think that part of it is the damage we did to ourselves, physically while playing. But another part of it is a lot of guys, when they're done playing, because they devoted so much time to football, they kind of have to start over.
Right.
And I think it's hard to start over. I mean, when I finished playing, I went back to Texas and got my degree, and it was hard.
Yeah.
And luckily, when I retired the first time, I got to travel around the world and get a sense of, what else is important to me other than football. And so I was able to, I kind of had a head start. But a lot of guys don't have that opportunity, and they have this big question of, if I'm not a football player, who am I?
Right. It's like their whole identity.
Yep.
And that's it. That's why it's important to do other shit. So that the game itself doesn't define you. I guess, right?
I'm guessing it must happen in the music industry too.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's why you see more and more guys like, let's just say, Jay-Z, 50 Cent. Puffy Combs and the like, right? They've all made moves outside of the music industry so that, they have different opportunities going on. They're utilizing them and executing their plan, and, they're doing big things outside of music. And I think that's ultimately what all these guys are trying to do now.
Yeah.
Those guys were like the example. Before, the music industry was what an artist had. There wasn't too many opportunities unless you got into TV or movies like, Will Smith, Ice-T, Ice Cube, and the rest that followed them, right? That was really the only thing out there, so if you didn't do it in that, that's pretty much all you got. But now, I mean, you have all these different opportunities happening for these newer rappers that, that are up and coming, or today's rappers, I should say.
Yeah.
There's more opportunities there for them than there used to be for people in the genre, 15, 20 years ago. And now, the cannabis industry too.
More opportunities.
There's more opportunities. So, it doesn't, the music is not the only thing that defines you. You know what I mean? You can go into other places. It just depends on where your focus is.
Right.
Like if you're still doing this is, one of your main things that is your passion, and this is what you're going for, right? But let's just say you're done with it. Now your passion's in a different place, you know? So a lot of artists get stuck in that, like, where do I go from here?
Yeah. I mean, I feel like, when I retired the first time in the middle of my career, that's really what I learned was, before it was like, I need to become a professional athlete, I need to give my life to that. But then I started thinking about it. I said, I'm not going to be able to do this until I'm in my 30s, and then I'm going to have a whole lot of life left to live. What am I going to do with that
Right.
at that time? And so I kind of changed my attitude to, okay, how can playing football help me build for whatever's coming next? And when I talk to younger athletes, I tell them, I said, it's great to have the opportunity to be a professional athlete, but you need to be able to parlay it into something after that.
Right.
And so start to look at, what do I really want to do with my life, and how can the stage or the spotlight of being a professional athlete help me achieve those things?
Right. If you plan your exit and what you're going to do after you exit, I mean, you've pretty much given yourself the ultimate fallback.
To me, it's even more than a fallback, because if I have, like, I just think now, if I knew where I was headed, I would have taken advantage of more of the opportunities that I had to help. Because the thing about I realized about fame, at the very least, it opens doors.
Yeah.
And so, I had access to so many different kinds of experiences, but I didn't know where I was headed, and so it was just kind of haphazard. When I look back, and I'm not a regret person, but the one thing I wish I would have done differently. And I did it later, but when I took a year off and traveled, I wish as soon as I was done with college, I said, NFL is going to be there, but I need to figure out who I am. So if I would have taken a gap year, a year off and traveled. The Mormons do it. The kids that go to BYU, they go and see the world a little bit. And I think I would have taken a year off, gone and got to know who I was, and then I would have had a plan and a vision to know where I was headed. But if you're in the tunnel of being a football player, you don't really experience or see anything else.
Yeah, it's tunnel vision.
Yeah.
This is your one focus. You grew up going through this process to get to that point that gets you to the next point, and you don't see anything else but that. And you're right. I think if you give yourself a break and you take that time to experience things, it does broaden your fucking horizons. Like they said, it expands, all the abilities in how you process that, or all the possibilities in how you process that.
Yeah.
And then, you figure out whether this is really where I'm going, or, do I take this left or right here?
Exactly. And then, for me, if I would have had a clear vision of, wow, these are the things that I want to do with my life, and I can just be focused, okay, if I play football for 6 years, okay, and I make enough money to be able to do all the things that I want, then I can be focused, I can enjoy playing football, and also start creating my future.
Yep.
I hear that, man. I mean, how many series of books are you going to put out on this? Because, I have to read them.
Yes.
I like
Daily.
reading.
Yeah. I mean, I do too. I spend a lot of time thinking about these things, and and because of the situation I was in, being suspended and having to really ask deep questions about my life, about what's important to me and what's not. I came up with a lot of interesting ideas about it.
It makes you sort of have to soul search, right?
Yeah. I mean, I remember when when I played in Canada. I was suspended, and I spent a year off, and my agent, Lee Steinberg, called me and said, hey, do you want to go play in Canada? And I was like, first I was like, hell no, I'm not playing in Canada.
He loves Canada.
He loves Canada.
I didn't know. And then I started thinking about it. I was like, what else am I going to do? And so I called him up, and I said, yeah, hook it up. And so I had a blast. I love playing in Toronto.
In the smoke box, you said that the way they looked at it, you smoking was
they're
big,
like, what's
big
the
fucking
big
deal.
It's just pot.
No big deal, eh?
That's cool.
Yeah. And so I was up there for a year, and then I came back to California, and then I was going to be reinstated into the NFL. And so about a week before my reinstatement, I failed another drug test. And so the NFL, they were like, well, I don't know what to tell you, but you messed up again, And so I remember being at home, sitting on my couch, thinking is this going to be the tragic story of my life? And I had to
haunt you.
Yeah, and I had to soul search and kind of get my mind right, and it was hard and it was painful, but I got clarity and it got me on track.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, especially, I think the ultimate thing that I learned in that experience is just what I'm talking about, is that if the mistake I made as a kid is I said that being a famous athlete or a famous person was the end goal.
Right.
I stopped right there.
Right.
And then when I reached it, I was kind of like,
what do I do now?
There's my life lost meaning, and so I had to go through this experience to find out, okay, what's really important to me.
Yeah, I think you do find that out later, though. Either way, whether you have a plan or you don't, as time goes on and you experience things, that sort of formulates your plan moving forward. Okay, this is what I see. Now I know what I have to do.
Exactly, but I think that's the question where people get stuck is I
Yeah.
know what I have to do, but do I have the courage to actually do it?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's, it's all about pushing forward in that, in that regard. You got to just believe that you can. Because the minute you have like the one doubt, like it's all about what you say to yourself. I'm a true believer in that. It's like if you tell yourself, if somebody says, "Hey, I need you to do X, Y, and Z," and those ain't such easy tasks, right? X, Y, and Z, and you say to yourself, or you say to them, "I think I can do it," or "I don't know if I can do it," or "I might be able to." You failed right there.
Yep.
And if you tell yourself, "Yeah, I got it, no problem."
Yep.
Chances are you will find a way to get X, Y, and Z done.
That's funny. It reminds me of in India. One of the things that's common, at least from my experience in India, is if you're like, look, if you need directions or you want to ask someone for something, they always say, okay, and they have this thing with their head where they go like this,
Yeah.
and it's like where you can't, it's not a yes and it's not a no. It's like a, we'll see.
We'll see.
And that's their attitude is, oh, we'll try to figure it out. They don't say yes, they don't say no. They say, we'll try to figure it out.
You
Right.
said India?
In India. And I started asking people, I said, what is that about? And they explained that they said in the olden days, if the king asked you to do something and you said no, he would chop your head off. And so they just learned to just say, okay, I'm just going to try to figure it out.
Right. Yeah.
That's cool.
I mean, because what are you going to do? You say no. Like, you got to just figure it out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I wondered about that because when I was in Toronto, there's a lot of Indian people there, and some of them did do that, and I just thought they had earpods on. You know what I mean? Like, because I was walking around and they're talking. I'm just, oh, what does this mean? I was like, I guess they're listening to a song. But yeah. Now it puts it into perspective.
Where's your favorite place you've traveled to?
India.
India.
Yeah. It's intense.
Yeah, I would imagine.
It's intense. I mean,
It's like culture shock.
Yeah.
For us.
Yes.
For someone who's never traveled, it's probably crazy culture shock, right?
yeah, I remember being on the beach, and I have an idea of growing up in San Diego what a beach looks like. And the beach is like, from our standards, disgusting, and I'm on the beach and I see this dog carrying another dog in its mouth, and this like dog is like half torn open,
Oh shit!
And I'm just like, damn,
It's a lot of character over there.
Yes, and the smells are so rich. It's such a rich experience.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I would imagine that's one of the places I haven't been yet.
And there's always music playing, always. Everywhere you go, there's like even in the jungle, they have speakers and trees. And you wake up in the morning and there's music playing.
I think more people need to play music everywhere like that because it soothes the soul and it sort of puts you at ease, no matter what you're going through. I mean, music has been used for that for so long, man.
Yeah.
I mean, households, like back in the day, families would be bumping shit in their house and you could just walk down the block and everybody's playing some different shit. Some similar, but, I think that shit got lost somewhere.
Yeah. I mean, I grew up in a house where, especially Saturday morning, there's always music playing.
Yep.
It's just.
While cleaning.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
It's just,
I know, dude. My mom used to do that shit, man.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I used to hear all kinds of salsa music while she was cleaning on those days. You know what I'm saying?
It's like when I was younger, when you're younger, you hate it, but then when you get older, you're like, I know this song, and then you're like, oh, thanks, mom.
Yeah.
the jam. Yeah.
And then you hear those songs now, like, oh shit, that puts you right
Takes you
back.
back.
Oh, right there.
Go back to Saturday morning as a kid or something.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask you, do you talk to the young NFL prospects or like?
A couple of years ago, the NFL invited me back to the symposium, and I talked to the incoming rookies.
I feel that because you mentioned a lot of the resources that, like, I guess guidance, isn't offered so much in the NFL, and it's kind of recently a new thing,
Yeah.
And I feel that because you have so much knowledge and your story, you spend a lot of time trying to figure things out. I feel that it would be perfect, even if the NFL didn't offer that to you. I feel like, you could kind of do your own thing and like offer that to the NFL. Upcoming stars.
I don't want to give up on NFL guys, but to a certain extent, I think once they're in the NFL, it's almost too late. And so I like talking to younger kids and just really changing the whole narrative about what it means. And I think you use Jay-Z, and he's a good example, right? He parlayed a specific gift he had, right? And it's that same journey, right? That first the record company owns you, and then you kind of break free, and you're able to do your own thing. And I think if football players would start to approach, or athletes would start to, and I think basketball players are already starting to do it.
Yeah.
Where there's a partnership between the league and the player. How can we support you? And the league is saying, how can we support the players in accomplishing their goals?
Everybody's happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think the NBA is like really trying to work with their players. You know, I mean, 85% of the league are cannabis smokers.
Yeah.
I mean, if you ask anyone who is playing now or someone who's retired, just newly retired, they'll say that 85% of the league smokes or one way or another, or they do edibles or, you know, things like that.
Hell yeah.
I mean, my thing is right. Football players, we're putting our bodies, we're putting our life on the line, and making a lot of people, we're making ourselves money, but we're making a lot of people a lot of money.
Yeah.
Let's take care of each other.
Yeah, for sure.
That's
They should definitely look out for their players more. And, you know, you keep hearing stories here and there like that they're gonna lift the ban on cannabis and all this stuff, but, you know, so far nothing's been done in that.
I mean, I'm biased, but I think my story is a perfect example. To me, you know, aside from the way they made this a negative thing, I was something that was good for the NFL.
Yeah, for sure.
Know? And I think even what I'm doing with my life now and all the positivity is it's something that's positive for the NFL. And the fact that I should have been punished the way that I was, an outcast, it's ridiculous.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they dropped the ball. I mean, you were way ahead of the game on shit, you know? And I think they should learn from that experience with you there, where they could have supported you as a player in hearing out, you know, why you were taking these particular steps.
They just assumed that there was something wrong with me.
Yeah.
I mean, that was the...
They just assumed you were a stoner.
When you, I'm telling you, and even the way, you know, and they try to say we're trying to look out for you. So as soon as I got into the drug program, they sent me to Atlanta, and I spent 8 hours talking to different therapists, and they came up with like a whole treatment program, and I had to talk to a guy, and you know, I'm the kind of person where I'm open to new experiences. So I was like, it sucks that I'm getting drug tested 9 times a month, but at least I'll have somebody to talk to.
That's fucking crazy.
You said
9 times a month?
Yes.
But you said 8 therapists?
8 therapists.
I'm just wondering, like, what the fuck do I talk about? I would get high before I go to the therapist. Like,
You know, but a lot of it was filling out all those tests, you know. But they just, but to me, it's like they act like they're trying to take care of you, but really, I just felt like I was a criminal.
They're covering their ass.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Damn.
It is what it is, you know, because they don't want a player in their league to make the league look bad, you know, in the public eye, because it's an investment, right?
Yes.
But they have old values, old views, old knowledge.
Yes.
Because if they would really do the diligence and the research, they would see that people that watch all these sports, a good percentage of them are cannabis users and can relate to the players that use cannabis. It would be great for their fucking brand.
A good example of that. All right, so you know, we were talking about Kobe earlier. The way when I learned about it, I was in Houston, and I was at an autograph show, signing autographs, and I was in the back room signing autographs, and Dennis Rodman walks into the room, and he said it was just reported on TMZ that Kobe Bryant, you know, died in a helicopter crash. And everyone was like, you know, they thought it was a hoax.
They thought it was,
and it was so fresh that everyone got on their phones, and you know, there was nothing there. So they were like, it was a hoax. And then very slowly, it started to drip out. And you know, it was whoa. And so at the autograph signing, and you know, my autograph signings have picked up like tenfold over the past year. And the reason is people just love the inscription that I write, and the inscription is "smoke weed every day." And so I'm telling you,
cheers to that.
I'm telling you,
cheers to that.
I wrote that 250 times yesterday, and I got paid a lot of money to do it.
Well, all right.
And so that just goes to show that there are football fans
that made me want to smoke weed right now.
Yeah, right. I'm waiting for 4 more joints right now.
That's why you bring this, Be Real.
That's why you bring that, Ezo.
And that blows my mind. I mean, because I'd say this year I probably signed that 12,000 times.
Yeah.
You know?
Do people bring you weed when you're doing it?
Sometimes people usually they'll bring me cookies or brownies. You know, mainly they'll just say, "Hey, you know, I got some in my car if you want to."
Yeah,
got some in my car.
Yeah, that's
rad.
Yeah,
we
that's
talked
the one.
about that.
That's the one right there.
That's right.
Hey man, I got weed in my car. Nah, I'm good. Thanks. Sorry. Fuck.
Do you use CBD now because you've always been about self-care a lot? I mean, like you mentioned this a lot in the interview, and the idea about having that gym that's kind of more of a spa or rehab kind of style.
Yeah.
Where it's more about self-care. Do you use CBD on the daily? I feel like it fit right perfect in your life.
I do. I mean, I was a running back and I carried the ball a lot and I was beat up. And what I found with CBD is that it's the one thing that every time, you know, I can feel all the tension and the tight muscles. I can feel them let go. I can feel them release.
No inflammation and shit.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And you know, I have a CBD brand. You know, it's
real wellness.
Real
right?
wellness. Yeah, it's a big focus of mine. I mean, when I retired and took that year off, one of the things that I learned about myself is that I was a healer. When I was traveling in Australia, and some guy gave me a book on this thing called Ayurveda, and I didn't know what it was, but
Ayurveda?
I started. Yeah, it's a medicine. It's an alternative medicine system from India. This guy from England gave it to me. I started reading it, and it just kind of it blew my mind, and it made sense to me in a way that of understanding the body and health in a way that I'd never been exposed to, but it clicked, and so I just started studying it, and I came back to California and realized I'm not a football player anymore. I got to find something. What am I going to do with my life? And so I thought about this book, and I found a school in Northern California where I started studying Ayurveda, and I realized that they use herbs to treat
holistic stuff.
Exactly. And I found this book on Ayurveda, and they had a whole chapter on cannabis. And that was like a aha moment for me that maybe I'm not a bad person, but maybe I'm on to something here.
You're like, I knew it.
You are definitely on to something.
Maybe I'm on to something here. And so I just jumped in, and I realized that there was a whole system of herbalism to treat complex diseases.
Right.
You know, they used it the way we use I'd say in a more holistic way to the way we use pharmaceuticals. And they had a whole chapter, and this book was written in the 60s, a whole chapter on cannabis. And so this was a main ingredient they used in their healing system. And so I started studying herbs and trying to understand how did they view cannabis, how did they use it to treat people medicinally. And I've taken that knowledge, and we're creating formulas for people to help to create truly medicinal marijuana.
And that's great because realistically, you know, pharmaceutical companies always are trying to, you know, pump this shit into people. And they do that through a lot of our doctors, unfortunately. The doctors get on the hook for that, you know, that education that they got. You know, the student loan is always something that looms over every young doctor coming out, right?
Owns them.
It owns them. So they have to deal with the pharmaceutical companies who don't want none of these people even getting onto anything in terms of holistic healing or anything like that, because that'll take away from their bottom line. So the doctors normally have to push that shit on you, even though they don't want to. But they've taken the check. They've signed the deal with the devil.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very rare when you get a doctor that will say, hey, listen, why don't you try this? I'm not really supposed to tell you that, but why don't you try this? But what's cool about this day and age is that information is available.
We have access to it.
Yes, we have access. We don't have to just go by what our doctors say. People are questioning their doctor's prescriptions. Not mine. But other doctors are getting questioned, right? And people do the diligence.
Hell yeah.
This is an easy prescription, you know, because it connects you to a deeper part of yourself. And that's where true healing
Yeah, like
occurs.
I've never taken a Valium and been like, oh my God. You know, like
I feel great.
I didn't know that about myself. You know?
Right.
Yeah, like,
Yes. There you go.
Hey, let me ask you this. I mean, because you said it earlier, you know, you were running back. You took a lot of damage in the course of that time. Who was the one that put the hardest hit on you while you were playing?
Ray Lewis.
Ray Lewis.
No doubt. Ray Lewis. Yeah. We beat him this
Hall
game.
of Famer.
We were playing in Miami, and it was a 2-point conversion. And I ran like a swing route, and the quarterback threw the ball behind me, so I had to catch the ball like this. And then when I turned back around, before I could even get my head around, like I didn't know where I was. And I got up, and it was on our sideline, okay? And I got up and started walking towards their sideline. So that's when you know.
That was how hard.
Yes.
Yeah.
smacked.
And then my last year, I played for Baltimore, and just to practice, I mean, every time.
You had to go through him again,
He's special.
So you could see what other running backs had to go through when they played against
He was
that
special.
guy.
I mean, he's special.
Well, he's a Hall of Famer, right?
But he's that next level Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
Like, to me, best football player I've ever seen, best football player I've ever been around, best football player I ever played against.
Yeah.
He was a force to be reckoned with.
Champion at that.
Yeah.
You know, he was a force, man.
Man.
He was fast. He was smart. He was strong. So he could anticipate plays. He had instincts.
That's the other thing about, the new technology and training, styles. It makes guys like that hit so much fucking harder. Crazy.
There's no other way you could have authenticated that anymore. Like your experience. You're like, because you were quick to say that. You're like Ray Lewis. Just right away.
Yeah, he didn't even have
there's
to think about it.
There's no faking the. That's authentic as fuck.
Yeah. So who do you think's gonna win the Super Bowl this year?
This is a tough one, but I think
it is tough.
I think every year there's a team that has the magic.
Right.
And I think this year the 49ers.
I believe that too.
They have the magic.
I believe they have that thing happening for them right now because they've been money. They've gotten in a couple of tight situations, but I mean they're just right there. Garoppolo's been delivering. And the rest of the team, I mean, fuck.
You'll see. I mean, teams they hit a flow, and they got that magic, and I feel like
it's been a while.
Yeah,
yeah, it's been a while.
Yeah,
it was quiet. It was quiet too. They quietly took the league by storm.
Because I don't think people believed that they were going to get to the big game. I think that they're doing all right now, but when they get to the playoffs, it's it's going to fall apart for them. But nah, man, they fucking stood heavy.
They believe. You can tell. They believe.
Yeah, they got a certain confidence about them.
That's all it takes.
They got some experienced defensive players down there, too, that have won big games.
Richard Sherman had a big game.
Yeah, he sure did. Yeah. So, I think guys like that are valuable in terms of harnessing that, like, experience and saying, hey, listen, this is what we got to do. Get hit in the mouth, keep rolling. Just...
I mean, you're right on it. I mean, there's something about having that veteran in the locker room that's been there before, where you feel more at peace because you feel like you have confidence that
leadership that
we can do this.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. We believe in ourselves because these guys have been there before and they've won, so we could do this. Yeah,
yeah. I think that's it's. Do you think it's tougher when, let's just say, the players are not necessarily rookie players, but are new players and really don't have connection with those guys that are like the older veterans like that? Is it harder for them to see the vision?
I think there's two kinds of connections. There's a connection where like that you tend to see more nowadays where, the younger players hang out with the older players a little bit and the older players kind of take it on themselves to be mentors.
Yeah.
And then there's the old school type where you don't really talk to the young guys, but they learn to just look up and by example realize
they recognize
I have to keep it at this level, otherwise, they're going to be hard on me. And then there's sometimes where there's a disconnect where the old guys look at the young guys and say they don't respect, they don't honor the game, and the young guys look at the old guys and think those old fogies, they don't get it, or they're trying to take their job. So I think it's about the culture, and I think the reason the Patriots are always so good is they create a culture where it's about the team.
Yeah,
it's not it's
not about the individual.
Exactly. It's about the team, and everyone's going to come in there and they're going to fit in. And if you don't fit in, I don't care how good you are, Belichick's going to get rid of you.
They'll cut you. Because I think that is a part of a winning team is the culture. Because when you sort of play it by the individual and depend on one or two people, and sometimes mostly one, it gets fucked up, and the rest of the team don't believe. They're just maybe there getting paid, going through the motions.
And that doesn't work. Because football is 11 guys have to be on the same page. You gotta be working together, and if you have stuff, and you're not on the same page. It doesn't work. You can have all the talent in the world, but if you guys aren't clicking and working together, it's a waste.
Yeah. I think the Niners believe in what they're doing right now. It seems like they got a different focus, and everybody put them as an underdog throughout the season, right? Mm-hmm. They just were waiting for the bubble to burst, but guess what?
They're here.
They're there. God damn. Man, what you smoking on these days? Like, what's been the favorite?
Well, lately, I still have some of the homegrown.
Right.
I got the homegrown stash, and so that's
right on.
Yeah.
So you grow at home?
And this was the first year where I had a harvest that I felt good about.
Right.
Last year I had I didn't do a good job being selective with the strains. I'm at like a mile high, and so I had a little bit of mold, but reached out. My son actually reached out to this guy in Michigan and got us some genetics that do well in this environment.
Right.
And so I had the first harvest that I was really proud of.
That's awesome. That's key too. You know, having a strain that can adapt to the environment.
Yeah, I learned the hard way.
Oh yeah, I mean we all do that.
What strain is it?
Yeah.
I forgot what he called it, but it's a Panama Jack cross. Yeah.
The big sativa.
Cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Are you a sativa person?
I'm definitely a sativa.
Yeah, me
person.
too, man.
Yeah.
I like that shit.
Yeah, I'm more like leaning towards like hybrid that are sativa dominant.
Yeah, but like no, like
Yeah.
I only bust out the full indica when it's like break in case emergency. You need to go to sleep.
Yeah.
yeah,
When you need that extra head knock.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But like the sativas just keep me up with creativity on point.
Exactly.
It's-
Yeah.
You know, oddly enough, right? We're talking about hard hitting weed. There's these guys that named the fucking weed an OG strain after Ray Lewis because they felt like their
It was hard
indica
hitting.
was hard hitting.
Wow.
It'll knock you out, huh?
It'll knock you the
that
I've
clip-
been there.
You know, after I smoked it, I was confused too. I was like,
well,
That clip of you just saying it is probably going to authenticate them so much. They're going to be like, I knew somebody else was verified this.
So now they got to send me some so I can test it out and say,
It checks out.
Yeah.
yeah.
have you gotten stoned with any other NFL players like after being retired that you didn't think that they were chiefing out?
Damn, Marino.
I mean, I think being in the league, I know the culture and I know
Right.
that pretty much every it's one of those things where you hang out with the guys and enough guys are there, it's gonna be there, and so you have to be the guy that says no. You know? So
right.
Right.
Understood.
and we don't get tested during the season. So and I'm to the point, and I might be missing something, but why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
As a football player, why wouldn't you?
Right.
Especially like how stressful and what we do to our body, and there's something that could help you feel better,
Take the edge off.
and get you ready to come back and do it again. Why wouldn't you?
Yeah.
Yep.
You should.
Yeah,
I
man.
think you
Smoke
should try.
weed every day.
Smoke weed every day. Rest in peace, Nate Dogg. It's
Yeah.
one of the coldest lines in cannabis culture.
Man.
So-
Hey.
Funny story. So I had one of my best friends in high school sent me the old highlight film from my senior season in high school, and so I went in and I did some editing and I cut out my favorite plays, and I set it to 2 songs. The first song was Hootie Hoo by No Limit, yeah. And then the second song was that song Smoke Weed every
Yeah.
and I just let it run, and the way it just naturally the way it ended, the very last hit,
Yeah.
I ran this guy over and then it went to black and the line hit right there, right on time. I was like,
Hey,
Synchronicity.
what was your proudest run over? Like, who did you run over that you were like, yeah, I got you?
Roy Williams. we were playing the Cowboys on Thanksgiving. So, it was everybody was watching. And Roy Williams at the time, it was one of the hardest hitters in the NFL. And
Yeah.
there was a lot of talk, and I came through the hole, and it was him and me one-on-one, and I got him.
That's got to be one of the fucking best feelings as a running back.
man.
I mean, I separated my shoulder, but
That's
But I got
some
him.
gladiator shit right there.
exactly.
Wow, man. Adrenaline on high.
Exactly.
What's the worst injury you've had throughout your career?
Probably when I tore my pec,
Where's that at?
right
Yeah.
here. I tore this muscle right off the bone. Yeah.
That would be painful.
Is that like crying pain? Like, did you cry?
Oh no, actually the one that hurt the worst was we were playing the 49ers my rookie year, and it was the last play of the game, and we needed to score, and I just ran like a little short route, and the quarterback threw it to me, and so I was like, if I get tackled, the game's over. So I'm trying to keep myself up, and I put my arm down, and it just buckles, and I dislocate my elbow.
Oh man,
That was the worst pain.
That's not good.
yeah, that's yeah,
That's not good.
That
not
sounds
good.
painful as fuck.
It was bad.
That wouldn't be good for a DJ.
Oh my God, no. That's
Yeah, that's like just when you said that, like I kind of felt like my muscles tightened
Yeah.
up a little bit.
And then when it was healing next couple of weeks, sometimes if I was sleeping, it just would pop out.
Oh,
Hey, those are the little things that people don't know about the injuries you guys take,
Yeah.
man.
And I was a tough guy, and so I didn't miss any games. I mean, we had a bye the next week, so I had a week to heal. But still, that injury is usually 4 to 6 weeks, and I was playing with the brace in 2 weeks.
And that's the thing about
Wow.
football. They want you to play. Like if you're, really hurt, then maybe, you're like, okay, you're an investment. We don't want you to play. But if you're a little hurt,
It's tough, though. I mean, I think, at least for me, but I think across the board, I think the hardest thing in football is playing hurt because
right?
So before I got drafted, some veteran I bumped into, he gave me some advice. I didn't take it, but he gave me some advice. He said, "Don't play when you're hurt." He
Right.
said because they don't judge you as being 50 or 60%. They judge you as that's you not playing. And he said, so if you're hurt and you don't play well, it gives you a bad reputation.
Yeah.
But I bought into the whole warrior culture, and to me, like if I can walk, I'm gonna find a way to be on the field, and that felt good to me.
Right.
But at the same time, I look at from the outside the most difficult parts of my playing career, and it was because of injuries.
Yeah.
And that's where I finally learned if I want to play, I got to take care of my body.
Self-care.
Yeah, I mean, in football, it's a whole different level of hurt. It's
man,
not.
I can't imagine that.
Yeah.
I mean,
You gotta have a certain mentality to do it well.
Right.
It's not for everybody.
it's not. But more Europeans are getting into traditional football.
They
or
are.
traditional football.
They are. I mean, I coached in an international tournament a couple years back in Sweden, and it was amazing to see a team from Japan, a team from Mexico, a team from Finland, and a team from Sweden to all come together
Like a World Cup?
Yeah, exactly, and to play this game. It was an amazing experience for me.
Yeah, it's nuts seeing that, man.
Who had the smallest players?
We did the Chinese team.
I would, yeah, because most of those big guys are going to the sumo circuit.
What about the biggest players, like Viking motherfuckers?
Yeah, they were huge. The Swedish team they were huge.
Yeah.
They were slow, but they were huge.
Yeah, they're big people.
Like over 6'4".
slow-
All of them, all of them were at least 6 foot 6'1".
It's like a slow motion football game.
Do you think you bring them to the U.S. and train them there? Probably a whole different level.
I'm telling you, you could if the NFL wanted to, they could go to Europe and pull probably 2 or 3 guys that could start in the NFL.
Like the NBA does.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because they go all over Europe and hand select the baddest motherfuckers out there.
I think if I were the XFL, I would go recruit players from Europe because you get them in a system over here and they get to learn the game around other Americans and see how it's really played. They're gonna be ballers. Like I think just like in basketball.
XFL's coming back, right?
Yeah, I think they're starting in a couple of weeks.
It's like what soccer does with European stars.
Exactly.
Yeah,
You
once
know
they
what's-
retire out there, they bring them out here and kill it.
You know what's a trip about XFL, and nobody talks about it so much, is that wire cam way to film the game, right?
They started it,
They
yeah.
started that shit, right?
Yep.
And now it's practically in every fucking sport.
And I'm telling you, they're gonna create some other stuff. McMahon is a genius. He's gonna do
Yeah.
something to help spruce up the game. It's gonna be interesting.
Yeah, man.
That is some dope shit though. Like when the camera just fucking gets all the shots and nobody's bullshitting.
Just runs along.
I'm cool with it in certain sports. I'm not so cool with it in basketball. Because when they fucking start trying to follow it too much, sometimes they get the wrong angle and you don't see the game unfold the same way.
Yeah.
But I think for football, it's awesome. I think if they had some wire cam for paintball fucking play, like when they tried to put it on TV, the competition, I think that would have been perfect for that. Shit like that. Football and soccer, I think it's best for, because you can sort of follow it in a different way and it makes sense. There's so much room for that cam to travel back and forth, the whole scale of the field.
It's just basketball is so small.
Yeah, basketball is so small. It just some of the angles are fucked up, because
Are you a Lakers fan?
yeah, they're doing pretty goddamn good this year, and I think, unfortunately with the passing of King Mamba. You know what I'm saying? I think that's going to add a little extra fire to him.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just crazy in the timing that it happened. LeBron,
I know that's
takes his spot in the scoring.
Yeah, that's true.
that's interesting, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then his last IG post was to LeBron.
Wow.
Like if you look at
That's one of those things that just
Or it's almost like, damn, man, the torch is like, like,
Yeah.
you kind of look at it that way. Like,
That was
the trip.
Yeah.
I just think something like this happens and it's tragic, and thinking of the meaning of it, and all right now, all around the world right now, this morning, the conversations that people are having, probably that they've never had before because of this.
Oh yeah, this story right here is dominating everywhere. I mean, it's pretty crazy.
It's in the air.
It's
you know what I mean? You
definitely
feel
there.
it. It's a heaviness.
It's interesting that it's making everyone have to think about death and about
mortality.
And really thinking about their lives, and it's real. Like if this can happen to someone as
on that scale.
Well, because he's somebody who you wouldn't expect something like that happening to. But a lot of people did talk about how he used the helicopters a lot.
A lot. I heard it was a lot.
Well, wasn't it a fear of driving? Like he was afraid of dying in a car accident?
No. It was that he wanted to get from A to B as quickly as possible, so to not waste time.
Exactly.
Like to get to work.
That's how he would come from down south, right?
Well, yeah, because he lived out.
I mean,
in
if you know
Newport.
Orange County, it's like getting up to LA.
It's like an hour and a half.
Exactly. That's no fun.
I mean, if you're trying to get into the spirit of what you're about to do, whether it's practice or playing the game,
that feeling of being that's not a good feeling.
You're in traffic. You're just like
the whole way trying to get to the fucking arena so you can get into the mindset of playing. So he X'd that shit out.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, all those people that were lost.
I
just I think it's at least for me, where Kobe was a year younger than me, where I have to think it can happen to anyone. And really look at my life and say, if it did happen, how would I feel about my life?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll say this, and they've been talking about it. He was one of the guys who, he was going into another chapter and doing things outside of basketball so that he didn't have basketball just to define him, like we were talking about earlier.
Yeah.
He was creating these programs. He had the Mamba Academy.
Yeah.
And all that. Have you ever trained there?
No, I just learned about it when reading a story this morning. So one of my hobbies is astrology, and I know that Kobe is a Virgo, and Virgo's really about teaching, taking what you learned and sharing it with other people. And so when I saw that, it just warmed my heart that he was moving in that direction.
Like a humanitarian.
Yeah. It's like becoming really good at something. And we it's kind of that same thing we were talking about earlier is passing on our knowledge. Someone teaches us something and we pass on what, and the fact he was coaching his daughter's team, that's amazing.
Yeah, what's cool was he was passing on knowledge and investing in the kids for the future, teaching them and polishing their skill sets.
Exactly. That's Virgo. Yeah, and so I was with Vince Young yesterday at the Autograph show, and we heard the news, and Vince was saying exactly the same thing. He said, I'm really hurting because when I was going through my worst, Kobe took it upon himself to reach out to me and check on me and mentor me.
Yeah.
And I think Kobe's touched a lot of people that way.
Oh yeah, I believe so. I think he learned a lot from Phil Jackson in that regard, because I think he got involved with his players like that.
Yeah.
And, he took a page from that book and applied it to his, everyday way of thinking. He was that warrior mentality.
I would have loved to have played for someone like Phil Jackson. He just seems like he cared about his players, and he wanted his players not only to get better as basketball players, but he saw as they become better as men. Yeah, it's going to spill over.
Have you ever read his book?
I have.
It's crazy.
It is.
The way that he gave each and every one, a mantra and their own books to read for their, what their role was, and who they are as men. It put them on a different level.
I mean, that's the way that I would, if I coached, that's exactly what I would do.
Yeah.
Because And what I loved about playing in Baltimore was Coach Harbaugh had a saying, it is simple. We learned the song in church, but he would say, "Let your light shine."
Yeah.
And for me, that was different. But to be in an environment where we were a team, but what made us a team is that each of us were willing to shine in our own unique way, and we could come together. Like like Voltron.
Yeah,
you know?
exactly. All the pieces
Voltron.
come together, and you're one bad motherfucker.
Exactly.
Hell yeah.
Exactly.
When the fingers ball up to hit the face. Word up, man. Hey, I know you got a lot of shit going on. I want to thank you for taking the time to rock with us here at the Dr. Greenthumb podcast. Where could they find you, Case? They know, and you know, a lot of these people saw you on the smoke box, so they're stoked that you're here again for sure.
So mainly I'm on Instagram and at Williams. I'm pretty active and like to engage and check me out.
Right on. Hey, this is the first of many times that we will be having a conversation with my man.
Yeah. Also, Real
Right here.
Wellness. Check out my herbal company. It's rw.life.
That's right.
Yeah.
Get well.
Yes.
You can get high, but really
Get well.
get well.
Yeah. And it's cool when they become one and the same.
That's right.
Yeah.
That is right. Hey, make sure you check out the Dr. Greenthumb show every Friday on Facebook Live. What's the time we run that? 11 now? It's 11 a.m. We're all over the place. Over
Yeah.
here right now.
Usually it's 1.
Yeah, usually it's 1, but we're switching to 11.
Yeah.
Check out the Dr. Greenthumb dispensaries, Eureka, San Francisco, Sacramento, Sylmar, and here in Los Angeles. We got all the mad flavors, all that, and the sweet water brew collab.
Insane OG.
Insane OG.
Infused with actual Insane OG terms. It's the only beer that's you're gonna open up. It's gonna smell like Insane OG, but it's gonna taste like a good ass beer.
That's right. Coming in
Man.
February. Make sure you check it out. This has been another Dr. Greenthumb podcast. We'll see you on the next one.